Hey everyone, this is Cynthia with Bliss Home and Garden. This April, I'm going to share what my backyard looks like. And today happens to be solar eclipse day. My brother sent me this live photo from Indianapolis where they experienced a total eclipse. Here in coastal Georgia, it seemed to be just another day. There was about 30 minutes where everything got still and somber, almost eerie-like. And I thought this would be cool to keep it as a memory. I'm starting this mini tour from the covered porch into the outdoor patio area. We recently expanded this area with a concrete slab, and this is what it looks like currently, but we have big plans for this, including a pergola and a whole lot more. And I'm going to show you the landscape in front of it. So we used to live near Callaway Gardens, close to Pine Mountain, Georgia. And in that area, we found these azaleas. Those are so beautiful. If you've never been to Callaway, oh, you should definitely plan a little trip. These are natives to that area, and they are beautiful. We bought them and didn't realize they were different colors. One's a little bit redder than the other, but they are so nice. Now they are deciduous, meaning they will drop their leaves and they come back every year as perennials. In between the azaleas is a lemon tree. Now we've already had this tree produce lemons in the past, and we suspect this year it will also do the same. I love the smell of citrus. Oh goodness, it smells so good. And I can tell there's going to be some lemons right here. I love watching the bees pollinating the flowers in the spring. But every flower has the opportunity to grow fruit. That's where it develops. If you take a closer look, there where the petals have fallen, you have the potential of a tiny lemon. How exciting. I have 3 varieties of azaleas. The regular common azaleas are under the pine trees, and they're the first to come out. And then I also have these encore azaleas. I made a video about these encore azaleas because they're my favorite variety. They bloom multiple times a year, and they give such a show in my backyard. So this early spring, they were out, and I actually got so many of them that I was able to decorate the tablescape for Easter using the azaleas in the backyard. Another spring showstopper is this beautiful bottlebrush. This is really a bush that I have trained to be a tree, but if you look closely, these do look like brushes. More like baby bottle brushes. You'll often hear me talk about experimenting in my videos, and I do like to experiment with my plants. I took the flowers of the bottle brush and put them in a flower vase, and then I had some friends from Atlanta that came over and thought these were really wild and cool. They don't last long, but they're beautiful. So now I want to share what's beyond those azaleas on that side of the fence. There's an arbor there that I have planted some seed, and it's a fruiting vine. I'm doing another experiment here to see if it grows fully. You might also notice that there's 2 shades of the fence. The brown portion is mine and the rest is my neighbor's. And in the middle of the yard, there used to be a fence. It was a picket fence that kind of was right smack in the middle, and we removed that. I have a video that shows that, where my friend Jeff helped me. So now we have a much better view of the back. On that left side, I started to landscape with some amaryllis. My in-laws gave me these amaryllis bulbs. Now, I'm in the coastal Georgia area, which it gets pretty darn hot. My zone is zone 8B. I cannot grow tulips because it's too hot here. It doesn't have enough chilling time. So if you're in a very hot and humid climate and you can't grow tulips, you might be able to grow amaryllis. I love these because they are definitely a sign that spring is here. Right behind them I have agapanthus, and then I have some sort of lily, but really I'll talk about that in the summer tour because you can't see them now. Now let's head over to the right side where I also have some amaryllis there as well, because I was thinking I'll have them both on the left and the right. So now as we head to the right side, you'll see an autumn cherry tree that I bought from fastgrowingtrees.com. And I also made a video about that, my experience buying from there. I love this cherry tree. It's grown fast. I finally purchased a tree online. My very first time buying a tree online. It pleased both my husband and I because he wanted a flowering tree. So I got one from fastgrowingtrees.com. I'm not affiliated with them and I don't get any credit for it, but I do have the video link in the description. And you'll see from this footage that on the right was the autumn cherry tree, and you can tell how much growth that has gotten since. The only minus about the location I chose is that when the irrigation is on, it hits it. And so there's a little bit of a bald spot, which I'm hoping when it gets taller, it will be a non-issue. But from now on, I'm actually checking where the sprinklers hit the plantings. And I'm also going to try to find out if I can lower the settings so that it doesn't go as high and it really hits more of the grass, not the leaves. By the way, if you have any tips on how to make the settings lower, I know that there's a little key and a tool that I use for the irrigation, but I'm not fully aware of how to make them go lower. I know how to make them go one way or another a little bit more strategically, but not sure yet how to make them go more towards the grass and not to the top of the plants. So this tree that you see there, I got at Kroger. I'm talking about the grocery store. I got it for $25. I thought it was a steal of a price. I got ready to plant it and I noticed that there were already little plums forming on the tree. I'd love to know if you can see all the little plums everywhere on this tree. It's so exciting. This is a Plum Morris variety, and it actually gets to a height of about 15 to 20 feet and a spread of 10 to 15 feet. I got so excited the day I was planting this plum tree that I also found a clematis that was abandoned on the ground, and I picked it up and I put it on a trellis to try to rescue it, hoping that it will do better over time. Then that little bird bath, and then I added some other shepherd's hooks with bird food and all these other things to make it a little bit more interesting in that area. Now I want to talk about the oh so famous Eagleston Hollies. These trees were so popular on a video I made previously. It's probably also been about a year and a half, and these trees have certainly grown. If you go back to watch this video, you will see how much new growth these are producing this year. And if you look at a comparison between that time frame and now, you will definitely see they're doing their job. As you can see, there's a window there that eventually I'd like to have some privacy. It's not a huge issue, but I think it would be nice if I did have more privacy for myself or for future owners of the house. The one on the left broke during a storm, so it's a little bit shorter than the rest, but they're all growing and have a lot of new growth coming. I can't believe how fast these are taking off. And on the right, we have a loquat tree. This is another tree that I absolutely love. And as you can see, this is loquat season coming. We've got loads and loads of loquats all over this tree. This tree was planted when it was a baby. It's obvious that after a while, I'm gonna have to trim this tree. It's so nice that every time you trim, and I'll show you a place right here, I have trimmed it and it has grown. Do you see new growth right here? This tree is very grateful. You can trim it after it has fruited and it'll just grow back out. So you don't want to let it get kind of wild like this, because now, even though it's easier for me to reach, it's actually going to look a little weird. It's almost to the point where it's blocking that Eagleston. So I think it's a good idea that eventually we get to trimming this, but we're going to have to wait until we've eaten the fruit, maybe preserve some jam, whatever we got to do with all those loquats. Underneath the loquat tree, there's several microclimates. Underneath I have oregano, and then I have a raised bed. Right now I just have a fig tree right there in the pot, but I'm going to fill that and use that in the summer for vegetables. Then I've got some mophead hydrangeas because that gets partial sun. So you'll see the sun on the left, and then behind and in the corner, it's more of a shaded, dappled sun area where I can grow elephant ears. Take a look at the hollies from this vantage point. A lot of people had made comments about, oh, you're going to infringe on the neighbor's yard. Well, look how it's not even touching my fence. I've been able to trim this and make it look like a wall. So little by little, this will become a filled out wall that will look really cool. Previously, I had actually had to clean this area because it got really messy with that pine straw. So I had pine straw just like I do it everywhere else, but also the leaves of the loquat can get really messy. That's one thing that I like to figure out how to make this easier to clean up every single year. So maybe I'm going to use a different ground cover because I went ahead and worked really hard on making sure this was clean, and I'm not sure I want to do this every single year. So the Loquat Tree area is in growing mode. These elephant ears will get big, so will these hydrangeas. And then I need to go ahead and clean up that oregano, those shoots. But look, the seeds have actually made Loquat Tree babies. And I'm going to go ahead and experiment once again, get them out, put them in a pot, and see how they will grow. Maybe I will gift them to some friends. So we've talked about mostly all the trees on this side, except for one, which is the one of the very first ones I ever planted in my garden. It is the Chinese pistache tree. There it is. It's the Chinese pistache in November. It's actually going to be Thanksgiving next week. There it is. It's the Chinese pistache tree 4.5 years later in the spring. It's been 2 weeks since Easter. I'm gonna have to make another video to show you what it looks like in November this year at the 5-year mark. It's the pistache cashew family, but it's not going to give me pistachios. One thing I have noticed is this tree leaves out the latest of all the trees that I have around. If you take a look, it's just now starting to leaf out, and they're pretty thin and scraggly. But later on in the summer, it should fill out, and I can't wait to see what it looks like 5 years into its growth. Let's talk about the landscaping in this area. Now, one thing that's obvious to me is that fence needs to be fixed. It looks really odd the way it is grading down and then there's nothing there. My next door neighbor recently added another shed, and so it would be wise to go ahead and put the fence to go behind the sheds. If you look at the fence close to where it's grading down, there's another trellis with a honeysuckle. Common names for this is major wheeler or coral honeysuckle. It is a semi-evergreen vine, so it will lose its leaves in the winter, but it is not aggressive and hummingbirds love it. Let's talk about the roses right in front of the shed. So I recently moved this knockout rose that used to be in another area of the garden. And then I aggressively cut the limbs as I was trying to make sure that it had most of its energy into the root. Only time will tell how it adjusts to the transplant, but so far so good. And I've planted it next to this climbing rose. I'm not an expert in roses and I haven't had much luck with flowering roses, so I'll see how this does. I'm worried that maybe I planted it too close to the tree and it'll have dappled shade. So we'll see how it does. To the right of that are two rosemary bushes that are very healthy. If you look behind the rosemary bushes, there's some other bushes called Podocarpus. These are very common in my area and they're used for hedges. They have a lot of new growth coming also. Currently, they're there to define the space, but eventually I'm not sure when the fence is in if I want to keep them there or not. They're awesome because they can grow really tall if you want them to. You can trim them and keep them pretty dense. I've trained this one to be like a tree, but in the back, I don't know how I'm going to grow them. I might even move them. My husband can't stand that about me, that I sometimes end up moving plants. But hey, sometimes we change our mind. Let's go back out to the other side of the fence. I really want to show you 3 more trees. On this side of the outdoor patio, I have two fruit trees and a beautiful ornamental. Right here is a nectarine that I just planted that I also bought from Kroger. Yes, I also got this for $24.99, and I was so excited to plant this because I expect that this will also give me lots of fruit. I do like to keep everything in a bag. So it's not fancy. I just have it in a Ziploc bag, but I can put everything together and I know exactly where it is. So I keep all the tags of everything that I buy. I also keep all the little things sometimes on the tree, as you can see from some of the places we've been. So the plum that I showed you is a Plum Morris, the one I bought from Kroger. And I'm not kidding you. Look at this. It's a nectarine that I bought for $24.99. It was a steal. Totally from Kroger. You can't return them at Kroger, but wow, why would you want to when they've already got like fruit on them? In that very spot where I just planted the nectarine, there used to be a cassia tree. It's Cassia. This tree was filmed right here in October. So this isn't going to be showcasing itself until October. I have moved this to another area of the house by the other side of the patio because I wanted the nectarine to have that full sun and to really be able to have the space to grow. This cassia tree needs a lot of support, and it was kind of flopping over to the next door neighbor's side. So I thought, okay, I can go ahead and move it and give the nectarine a little bit more space to grow. It's more sturdy, and I planted it a little further from the fence. But look how gorgeous this cassia tree is in October. This is not a spring plant, but it definitely is gorgeous. And I'm hoping that in the new place that I have it, it will do just fine because it certainly is gorgeous. I moved the cassia to the corner of the house, and it doesn't look fantastic yet because I trimmed it aggressively as well so that it would get more strength, but it will eventually look wonderful and I can stake it and take care of it. In this particular area right here is where we think we are going to put the new grilling station. That way we can leave that window and it can have the better view. So imagine with me for just a moment. The cassia will be on the right side and then the grilling station will be in the back. I will make sure that you can see the cassia from one way or another. So I'll try to do something a little bit lower so we can see the cassia flower peeking through. On this trellis, I am growing a satsuma tree. This may be a little bit of controversy between my husband and I. We've been disputing whether I should grow it freely or if I should have this trellis to kind of grow it as an espalier. Now, I'm new to espalier, but I have this idea that when we put the grilling station, this will also be a really cool way to highlight the satsuma and give it support. Are you at all familiar with espaliers? Espaliers are pretty cool because they are along usually fences or walls and they have special designs to them. So I've never made one, but I have an idea of how to make an espalier that kind of stands on its own. I've seen some on Instagram. So I had a really cool idea about it kind of going around the corner. So there's going to be a lot of changes and I'm thinking this isn't going to come together until later. My husband right now has no clue what I'm talking about, and I can't blame him. I also want to share that I do have a baby loquat growing on this side of the fence as well, so it is kind of giving me that symmetry, and another plum tree. Now this is a different plum tree that has not yet given us plums, and the reason I was so excited to buy that other plum is because I thought this was going to be easier to pollinate. I have already missed the window for pollination, so this one might not give me fruit this year, but eventually that should be the case. As I'm editing, I realized that I didn't even tell you about the ginkgo biloba or the key lime lemon or the kumquat tree or the pomegranate. But I do know that this area is going to drastically change in the summer and fall. And so I plan on making other videos to show you the growth and for you to see the difference in the different seasons. And then this whole entire area needs to have a total makeover. So there's going to be a lot of videos coming up and a lot going on in this backyard.
Isn't it awesome how much things have changed, how they've evolved, the things that have been improving, and the outlook of the garden altogether? I love the backyard. I am not even showing you the side yards and the front yard because we don't have time for that today, but there is so much joy in this space. And that's what I want to remind you. You can create bliss at home and in the garden. We'll see you next time.